All right, so welcome everybody to the town hall meeting for our 2015 Napa High Indians. Nice to say that again. Indians, MEL champion team. First of all, I mean it's great to see everybody on here. But right away, I want to start off by asking a few questions from everybody. I guess the most logical place to start off with is some of the great moments. And the best moment of the season came right away for you, Mott, when you became the winningest coach in Napa High history. So why don't we all chime in on that?
That was just a cool experience to be a part of, as that to be one of our big moments in our senior years, to get to remember that and to get to experience that with Coach Mott. It was that was cool for all of us, I think.
Yeah, along those lines, it was fun for me to celebrate that honor with an amazing coaching staff that we had those last few years, and then also with the kids, because it ended up being an amazing football season. And I can tell you at that time, me and the coaches had a pretty good idea that we were going to be pretty good that year. And so for it to happen that season with those players and that coaches made it extra special for me.
Anybody else? Anybody?
Great coach, great personality, good father off the field, all around good man. Proud to have him as my coach.
What does that mean for you guys as the players to do that? I mean, that was an awesome moment for me to witness from being on the sidelines, but to actually do that and in such a glorious fashion by just coming out and pummeling Montgomery.
That was nice to pummel Montgomery. I like.
Yeah, I if I'm chiming in, I think it was nice that it was not only we were celebrating Coach being the winningest coach, but also us winning our first game, getting the season started on the right foot. That really boosted our momentum to continue and start the season.
Gotcha. Anything from anybody else? All right. So I guess with that, I'll move on to the next question. Then we had the back-to-back of Pittman and Campo Lindo. Two crazy games there. What are you guys? What was your was that the stretch where we really thought that we were on the map, or what are your kind of thoughts about that back-to-back brutal 2-game stretch in the non-league portion?
For me,
yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was a huge stretch. I think we really came together as a team those 2 weeks and really just decided that, it didn't matter what the situation was. We were going to fight to the very end. I think they were both 7-point games, and I think that even just continues to show how we grew. And then moving on to Vacaville later that year when we were down 7 late in the game, and, we kind of relied back on those moments, really fought together and grew up together in those 2 games.
Yeah, for me, we learned a lot about ourselves, like Colton said, in those 2 tight games against 2 really good opponents. But it wasn't the defining moment for me was the win over Wood later on in the year. I felt like for your guys' class, the win over Wood was a hurdle that you guys needed to get over. Having never beat them as a class and taking a few rough losses, freshman and sophomore year. And so I thought that while I agree with Colton that we learned a lot about ourselves, as you usually do in tight games, win or lose, you learn how to deal with pressure situations. And as a coaching staff, we kind of learn who we can lean on in those situations. And so those 2 games, while helping us get to the team that we were, I felt like Wood was really the defining moment for these guys as a group.
Yeah,
Completely agree with that.
So I mean,
I agree with that too. And Wood was a special moment because I think that on both sides of the ball and what we did scheme wise, I just don't see I couldn't teach that to my team right now. And literally And believe me, I wish I could, but I mean that scheme that we put in, I know on the defense side of the ball was like that's like college caliber schemes, and you guys were able to put it in and accomplish it, and then absolutely dominate them. And I think to me, there's about eight to 10 games in my career that really like stand out. The Camper one that year obviously is one of them, but that one stands out to me, and I talk about that game on a regular basis. Going back to the Camper game, though, I went and watched Jared Horn pitch in his last season, and I got to talk to Flowers, who was the wide receiver on that team, number 3 for Campo, and he was literally like flabbergasted at what we did, and just like they weren't ready for what we brought to the table, and that just is a testament to you guys on this call and how much effort and preparation you guys put in, and I'll tell you what, if I could find that again, we'll be going a long way. Like that preparation and the effort you guys put in was second to none.
Yeah, so talking about the Wood Week, a little behind the scenes stuff. We worked really, really hard every week, the coaches on the weekends watching film, and then we would meet Sunday for hours upon hours in that film room, and we would just really grind out less game plans. And a lot goes into a game plan. A lot goes into our personnel being able to match up against the strengths that the other teams have, and can this guy do this against this guy, and we have to make a lot of adjustments. But the Wood Week, we left the building thinking we had a pretty good plan, and then Monday at practice we studied film. Well, I should say Coach Gassner and Coach Leach and Kirk Anderson studied film of our defensive practice Monday, and they came back with a pretty extensive game plan that none of us had really talked about. And I was nervous because not for the game plan, it made sense to me, but I was nervous about whether or not you guys could absorb it, even though we missed a day of preparation because of it. Like Coach said, and Colton and Parker and Cal and the safeties and linebackers had a lot of responsibility in that game plan and making checks and things like that. And so that's a testament to your guys' football IQ, your knowledge, but generally how hard you paid attention and worked. And as a head coach, I trusted, I really showed my loyalty to Coach Leach and Coach Gassner, because I was really nervous, and my first instinct was to fight against that, putting in a new game plan on Tuesday, and as intricate the game plan was. But they told me, you got to trust our players, and then of course I trusted them greatly because they're two amazing coaches, and so I, like Coach Leach, I've coached in a lot of really good games, big games. But that's a top of the list right there, that win. And again, more so just because it was a win that I think really needed to catapult you off into a championship type team. You look back and I think you got beat 54-12 or 14 as freshmen by that group. 38 to maybe 13 as JV players, lost your junior year to them. And it was a really talented group who had a ton of weapons. And so I was worried about that game. I was worried about your psyche as your players. Like, I wanted my team to go in every time thinking they would win. And I worried that, were you guys there mentally? I know you wanted to win, but did you believe you could win? And you answered that more so. That was a great win. And like Coach said, the defensive game plan you guys put out there was flat out amazing. And I remember Nathan had big yards on 22 and 23 or counter under, or 42, 43 counter under. Our offensive line did a great job of dominating that game. And we really dominated them that night. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, so while we're on that topic, let's go a little bit deeper into that game. The second half, what changed in the second half of that game?
Our conditioning in our weight room, by far. I know for a fact what their off season looked like over there, and they were a talented group of players, but they didn't put in the time we did. And I think that we grinded on them with the run game. And then we had a really dynamic pass rush that night that hassled that quarterback. We frustrated their receivers, and thus the frustration got to their coaching staff. And I think by the second half, both mentally and physically, we had, really taken over the game.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Coach. I think one thing that people don't realize too is the 2 touchdown passes to Jackson came on like 4th and 23s, right? And it wasn't even close. I forgot his name, but little 16 was. I mean, he's running for his life and throws up a prayer, twice on 4th and 20 plus, and that was their scores. I mean, and so it was utter domination. So.
And I remember Parker that game. He had an interception, and then we onside kick right away. We had big momentum, and we decided to onside kick. And so Parker got the interception and then recovered the onside kick right after that. I think that was the dagger right there. We were able to put the dagger in him and just finish him off.
Yeah, I
Troy
remember
mentioned the pass rush. That night, I think we used probably 10 or 11 different guys. We were rotating fresh guys in, basically every other down or every 2 downs, trying to create some kind of havoc on that guy. And I think our guys, some guys that normally didn't play a lot too, played in that game, and we got after that guy.
I remember a big pass rush game from Isaiah West that night. He's super athletic kid, and Isaiah did such a nice job of chasing that kid around, and Isaiah gave every ounce of himself because he was absolutely tired after that game because he had to do a lot of chasing.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Colton's coming back in. Okay. So while we're still on the topic of this Wood game, I mean, was it the biggest win of the season? It could be debated between the Pittman game, the Campo game, even the Vacaville game. Where does that one rank as far as wins throughout the season?
That's my number 1 high school football game that I've ever played in. Like throughout all the years, that'll go on. Like I can remember play by play pretty much that game because that's one that'll always stick with me because we always got beat by them, and that was the one team that would break our perfect season. So it was a sweet, sweet victory.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with
think,
Parker on that.
I feel the same way as you guys as players because we, as freshmen, I was with you guys. We were on an incredible run that year, and man, they throttled us, right? I mean, they put one on us. They stopped us from having a perfect season. So that one ranks as seniors with being able to be with you guys again. Probably top 3 or 4 I've ever been involved in. My all-time number 1 is when Troy got the all-time winning game against Montgomery. Yeah. That was important to me. Obviously, my older brother doing something incredible. We've been playing football there at that point over 100 years. For my brother to be the all-time winningest coach was awesome honor to be a part of. For not only me but for my entire family, that was a big deal. He'll play that down a little bit here, but that was a big deal to our family. It was right there was big.
So I mean, if we're gonna talk about the Wood game, we have to talk about the Vacaville game too the next week. Because that game was just as crazy. I think we were down like 1 score with 4 minutes and change left and something like that. And then what changed there? What changed at the end?
What I remember from that moment when we were down, the defense was in, and I remember Coach Gibson. He saw a lot of the teammates with their heads down, and he's like, "What the hell are you guys thinking? Like, there's enough time for us to not only catch up but to win the game." And then that's when people just start their adrenaline started to build up, and we saw it and we felt it in us that we could come back. And I saw that as a pivotal point. And then I feel like I remember talking to Isaiah when we switched. We had just scored to tie the game, I believe. And I told them, like, all right, well, we did our job. Now you guys go do your job in defense. Like, because that's how it is. We need to hold each other accountable. And sure enough, they stop them. And
4 and out the first series.
Yeah.
I agree, Alex. In that moment, like we scored, but you know, Vacaville, their offense is amazing. Their coaches are amazing. They have great athletes. They always have better athletes than us. That's just how it is, right? They just have more speed than us. And so as a coach on the sideline, I thought this ain't over because those guys can do it. But our defense, and it might have been the only 3 and out or 4 and out we changed. While we played great defense that night overall, holding them to 21 points, we also were able to, in that moment, make all the plays that we needed to do. And it was such a great big focus with the team. Going back a little bit, back to the scoring drive and coming from behind, for me, what rings true for me is Cal sort of really being perfect in those moments. He kind of took the game over, and we sort of had to transform our offense a little bit to more aggressive passing offense. And he battled. He made some key scrambles. He made some scrambles and was able to hit Sherman on a big 3rd down play.
Sherman with the one-handed grab on the sideline. That was
And then
best
we
catch I
also
saw.
we went for 2, right? And Sherman caught the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, we went for
And people don't realize this, but that was a play that we drew up right there. Like we didn't have that play in the playbook. It hadn't been a play we practiced, but we knew we were getting man coverage. And Sherm told Cal and Sherm, Cal was going to roll to right. And then Sherman went all the way to the back of the end zone and then started coming straight back and used, the 10 yards to create separation for himself. And so sometimes you got to draw stuff up and you make adjustments quickly. And again, having smart players, competitive guys, that was so fun from a coach's perspective.
And then, I mean, Nathan, you scored the game-tying touchdown there. I mean, obviously the game wasn't tied until Sherman had the 2-point conversion, but you got in the end zone there. So walk us through a little bit what was going through your head when you scored that play.
I mean, it was obviously huge to get in there, but I thought it was all the O-line. They did an amazing job just the whole game, opening stuff up, and then it was just kind of adrenaline for the time. And then I was on the sideline, I think, when Sherman caught that one-handed catch, and I was just so psyched for him, and it was just fun the whole time.
Gotcha. And then on the final drive, I mean, Cal, we kind of already hit on it, but you went down the field 3 plays, 53 yards, and hit PDL on an 18-yard touchdown pass. What was going through your head during that drive? And Mott, can you sort of talk about the play calling and having to change your offense up into being a pass-first offense, which is something that Napa normally doesn't ever do?
You want to go first, Mott, or?
Go ahead, Cal.
Well, there's a lot going through my head, and I'm sure there's a lot going through everybody's head on the field at the time. And I don't think it was a matter of thinking. I think it was a matter of just doing what we did throughout the season. Our team, there was never really room for a lot of thought. We just had to use our athletic skill and our smart mindset that we had as a team. And it wasn't just me on those last final drives. It was a team effort, and I'll always preach that because it's not just one person on the football field. It's 12 or 11 or 13, 24. It's how many's on the field at a time. So those last few final drives is just a group effort, and that was a really come together moment for me. And I think we growed as a team the most that game, and it really showed at the end with the end result.
Yeah, that was a tough night for us. I think we came off the wood win, and there was a lot of emotion involved in that, and it was a hard-hitting game. And then all of a sudden you got Vacaville, which takes a ton of preparation. And I felt like we were flat for a long time in that game as a team. And I think that it was more just mental exhaustion, with 2 really hard weeks of preparation at practice, 2 hard-hitting football games right in a row. And I think that we were, I think we came in and we're flat. And then you guys woke up at the right time. And, getting back to why you win close games, you win close games because you're tight. You're a tight team, and you have a belief system that is unbreakable. And you become a tight team in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and August, when in the weight room and on the hills and all these other things, and pouring your life into this football thing and doing it together with everybody showing up every day, everybody making sacrifices, and all the way down to hydrating, eating good, getting sleep, getting your grades right, beyond the football stuff. And so you guys were such a tight-knit team that winning close games, that's what tight-knit teams do. Teams that aren't tight, they lose close games. And so that has a lot to do with it. You guys being friends and liking each other. And from the top to the bottom, there's two things, two really great seasons I had, yours being one and the section championship being another one in 2007. And you guys had the exact same sort of identity. The best players on the team were totally inclusive to the worst players on the team. And the worst players on the team worked just as hard as the best players on the team. And that's what brought everybody together and makes you a championship team.
So, I mean, while we're on the subject about winning the title, that was the second one in a row. So what do you think that sort of did as far as setting the program's momentum forward? Because we had obviously broken the seal against Vacaville the year before. What does it mean? What did it mean at the time to beat them for the second year in a row?
Well, for me, because I've been in it longer than the players, it meant we were kind of getting back where I wanted us to be. We hit a lull, and a lot of teams and programs would pray for this lull. We were in the playoffs every year, and we were competitive, and we were fighting for championships. But we weren't getting over the top. We weren't winning those championships, and we weren't going deep into the playoffs. And there was a lull in the program. And I think, number one, I got an amazing coaching staff together. And part of that is luck. I mean, there's certain openings that happen with coaches, and I was lucky enough to get Dylan several years back from Vintage. I never thought I could get him, and I did. And it wasn't me that got him. It was our football program that got him to come over and coach with us. I got Coach Gassner. He was a coach at Vintage. I got him to come over. You got Kirk, who came aboard. And Kirk, is an amazing football mind. And he kind of like stimulated all of us, like football wise, like his film study and stuff. And he would come up with some amazing, the other teams, when they're in this formation, they do this one or two things, and it got us really, as a coaching staff, really thinking, and forced us to grind with game plans and stuff. So I think that, yeah, Kyle, to answer your question, that for me, it got us back to where I wanted the program to be: championship caliber, winning close games, beating really good teams.
All right, any of the players, what did you guys think? We were a part of that group that broke the seal finally against Vacaville. What did it mean to do it again for the second year in a row?
Well, that was that championship, or that was the game of the week too, right?
Yeah, Great American Rivalry.
Yeah, that was cool. The after part of the game where we all got to take the picture and we all got hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff. And then I got to mention Alex PDL, because he had 2 years in a row, he caught the game-winning touchdown to help us win the championship. And those were big plays, man. They were both similar plays. They were hard. Both of them were hard catches to make. He was covered well, and he got his feet down in the back of the end zone both times, and came up big for us.
So, I mean, where does this group next? I kind of want to pivot to where does this group rank talent-wise as far as Napa High football is considered? Because there's been some great groups. You mentioned Euro 7 team. We also had the 83 team, which was my dad's group, which was very good. I mean, that. This group has to be up there in some capacity in the top 10, if not the top 5. So, where would you guys put this rank-wise?
Yeah, well, I would agree. They're right at the top. It's so hard to rank teams and rank players. I get that question all the time from people. Hey, who's the best player that you ever coached? Who's the best quarterback? Who's the best receiver? What's the best team? All I know is, the proof's in the pudding. When you win championships and, you go deep into the playoffs, and you win not just championship, but you beat really, really good teams. Camp Lindo was a state champions the year before, right? Pittman ended up going far in the playoffs that year. The St. Mary's game, which, you know, I think we all that game always sticks in all of our craw a little bit, but they ended up going toe-to-toe with Folsom the very next week. And we went toe-to-toe with them and probably should have won that game. For me, this, you know, personally, this team's right at the top of my coaching list. I can't compare them to other teams in, you know, in the 80s or whatnot, but it was a phenomenal group of young men, phenomenal group of coaches. And you know, you can tell by just this meeting right here, all the memories are still there. All the times, great times that we had together, those don't leave us ever. And, you know, they'll be there with us till the day we die.
And then to pivot to the players here, you guys didn't lose very many games over your 4 years at Napa High. So just talk a little bit about like putting a nice bow on it with that senior season. Anybody? You're all muted.
Anybody gonna talk?
Go ahead. Or who's that?
Go ahead, Cal.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Okay. Okay, Foss, can you restate the question, please?
Yes. So you obviously your guys' group didn't lose very many games, but can you sort of talk about the rise up going through the program and then finishing it off with, you know, an MEL title, going 10-0, having one of the best program history? Like, what does that mean? Like, talk about it, what it meant to be on that side of it as a player, if I could speak.
I think it was cool. I'll put it in this aspect, just the chemistry that the players were able to build starting our freshman year, because that's when it all started, going into that weight room that first couple weeks after 8th grade that summer, and meeting all the guys and just knowing that was going to be our core group for the next 4 years. And it so happened that it remained that way, and I'm still best friends with all these guys today, which is awesome. And then on top of that, being able to go out in the field and perform at such a high level, I mean, it spoke volume. And not even just on the field, off the field, all of our actions and how we carried ourselves was in a really well-mannered way. And being able to do that year after year, and then going into our junior year winning the MEL season, along with our senior year winning the MEL again, that just, I mean, it kind of like it was putting a crown on it. And I mean, we worked so hard for that, and it was nice to be able to get a reward out of it. And I'm betting all these guys feel the same way. I mean, the season didn't end up how we wanted to, because of course we wanted to win a championship, but I felt like we gave it our all, and we were happy with the results.
Anybody? Any of you? No.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me was definitely the chemistry this team had. I mean, coming in freshman year, we had a great season. We built some great friendships. And then, you know, I went up to varsity on my sophomore and wasn't really with these guys. And I saw that team had a bunch of great talent, but, you know, we just weren't all there. We weren't cohesive. And, you know, just junior year, getting back with the guys, building that relationship again, and then making that to what it was our senior year was something really special, and something, you know, that very few teams that I've been a part of have even come close to what we had that year. So that's mostly what I remember. And yeah.
Oma, Alec, Parker, anybody?
I was going to say that I feel like the thing that kind of sticks with me the most from those years is that you're just that camaraderie we had. You know, it's like, it's really cool to be able to win games and everything, but it's just that much of a better feeling, you know, being able to win alongside the people that you've grown so close to. You know, you've had to go through all that hard work, all just that pain throughout all those summer practices that, you know, were just at times terrible, but you know, it builds you that much more, and just makes those moments just that much, you know, more fulfilling. And obviously, like Cal was saying, you know, of course we would have wanted to be able to cap it off and go all the way with it, but you know, it is what it is. And it is just, yeah, it's just such a great time every time getting those wins. People at that point, they were your brothers. It was such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and just to follow up on like what everyone said about building the bond since freshman year. Freshman year, like I didn't start until my senior year. I did get a chance junior year, but injuries put me behind. But I think what kept me going was the bond that we all built together. Like that really kept me to just stay on the team, overall. And the practices were tough, really bad sometimes that like I would question myself. But at the end of this like senior year, I'm like beyond grateful I stayed. I think that undefeated season really like meant a lot like to me and to us as a team to finally see like the hard work, like what all the other players and teammates were talking about, how hard work pays off and how it's like eventually my senior year, I got to experience the hard work pay off.
Yeah, I think Alex brings up an amazing point in what really, and Dennis has been with me a long time in the football program, and he can speak on this as well. But what really makes a football program isn't the Colton Forsters, the Parkers, and the Cals, and the Alec Richmonds. It's the guys like Alex who persevere, and Nathan too. The guys that persevere when they get their opportunity, they take advantage of their opportunity. They never let hold of it. And Alex is what we call the definition of the program kid, right? The kid that didn't play a whole lot, but he just stuck with it. And as he alluded to, he stuck with it because of you guys. He didn't stick with it because of Coach Mott. He stuck with it because his friends were there. And you guys impressed him enough as people off the field that he felt like, he was going to stick it out with you, even though he didn't always reap the rewards in his younger days in the football program with playing time. And those are the guys that make championship teams. The guys that stick it out and develop into being, top line football players.
Yeah. So Alex, you need to know that you're actually spoke of to this day. We mentioned you several times throughout my short stay that I've been here with Vintage. As a program kid, and I use you as an example for the young kids in the program that come in and maybe they're a step behind, right? They're a late bloomer, we call them. And man, we talk highly of you and the journey that you took with us over those 4 years.
Thank you.
Quite often you were mentioned.
Hey, and I want to mention something along those lines because Dennis and I obviously have that opportunity to have you guys as like our example. And I know we obviously use Alex, guys like Isaiah all the time in that case, but and Dennis can attest to this. I use you guys as a team over and over again, whether it comes down to the camaraderie, whether it comes down to preparation, the closeness, the will, the hearts. I mean, it's like it's on a regular basis that we talk about you guys. And I didn't really speak up on the overall. Obviously, I'm a high school football connoisseur. I know a lot about it. But like ranking you guys right now, I agree with Coach Mott. Like it's hard to rank teams and eras and different things like that. But because of who I was and the group that I was with you guys is like you're our example. You always will be. And I literally use you probably like 15, 20, 30 times a season, just trying to get our kids to recognize what you can accomplish if you have this camaraderie and you have this will. And then also the preparation. I think that to me, I know we talk about other things, but to me, with you guys, it comes down to the preparation and being able to apply the preparation to the game.
And I think the relationships that the players had with the coaches played a huge role in it too, because like we were able to goof around sometimes and we could crack jokes and be having the best of times. And when we needed to get serious, we could get serious like that. I mean, it was all business, but then right after that, we'd be cracking jokes and everything was all good. So I think that played a big part too. We had so much like trust, but so much like respect for our coaches. I think that helped a lot.
That's the funnest part, Parker, for us is we want to really, as a coach, when you get a special group like you guys, like it means the world for all of us coaches to enjoy your personalities and to enjoy you as people beyond football. And you hit it on the nose. There's this fine line we all walk, right? It's time to have fun and joke around and maybe goofy on each other at practice or in the film room. But then it's like, you know, there also has to be a time when, you know, that gets shut down and we get laser focused on the job at hand. And so that's a really good point you bring up, because from a coach's perspective, it's hard to juggle that. It's hard to be friendly and fun with you guys, but also be a disciplinarian and make sure that you're doing things right on and off the field. And so when you get a special group like yours, you know, and I was lucky to know many of you even, you know, earlier than high school. And so it was that much more special for me to be able to get to coach some of you who I, you know, saw be raised right next to my own two daughters.
Gotcha. So, on top of that, I mean, this group, obviously I'm going to be a little biased when I say that this group was amazing, because I was right there along with everybody seeing what was going on. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But I don't even know how to compare it to like other teams, because obviously the 07 team was like when I was, we were all in elementary school. So yeah, but it was, if I just want to interject, that team was, even you guys were all like, we are all good friends now still. So like that group really was just special. There's no other way to put it, special. But now I want to pivot a little bit. So Raines and Leach, you guys obviously are coaching still. What chunk of this team, besides the little mentions that you made of Soto and the whole group, what have you guys taken from that and taken over to Vintage? Like, what lessons were learned?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke about the preparation before, and you know, and it's hard. Obviously, I won't compare people, and obviously, I think we're all old enough to understand, you know, getting opportunities to coach and being down the street. But I'll tell you this: the last 2 years, coming off back-to-back 10-win seasons, what I've taken from it is like calling guys out in our program who, and I had to do this really the first 2 years, but getting into even the year, and I'm not sure if you guys know names, but we had a middle linebacker and tailback, fullback who, you know, he's a player of the year in the county, in the league, and you know, he's a good player. He's probably top 5 to 10 in Vintage's history, and but his preparation wasn't there, and I think that's what it comes down to, is like bringing that over, like telling him Colton's story, like telling him that we were on the phone with Colton every Sunday, even though we probably shouldn't have been, right? And Colton showing up to the film room and you know, getting all our checks down before Monday, right? And not only the preparation, but I think the care. I think this group, you guys had like, I think it hurt when you guys lost, right? I mean, that it was like painful to lose, and I think that's because you guys had so much passion and care. And I think, to be honest, when I got down the street, they didn't care if they lost. Like, it wasn't a big deal. And like, I'm over there about to cry, you know what I mean? Like, I put my heart and soul into this, and this program just doesn't care. And I think that's what we've adopted over there is the ability to have this passion where, like, it freaking hurts. Like, when you lose, man, it hurts. And it hurts because you prepared and you tried your hardest. And if it doesn't hurt, it just does, you didn't care, right, in the first place. So that's one of the things that I brought, and not just, I mean, no offense to this group, obviously, but Coach was right about the program, right? It was about having all those teams and all those groups and all those programs, and obviously the Coach Mott put together was, they cared, like everyone cared, and so I think that's what I brought over. Going back just real quick on Coach Mott's first thing about me coming over and it being about the program, and which is true, but it did have a lot to do with it. It had a lot to do with the staff, and mainly Coach Mott, and me wanting to branch out and learn, right, and becoming, and me thinking, right, I mean, as a coach, as a player, you have to have some sort of ego. Like, And like, I want to think that I'm the best there is, right? That's just my mindset. But I was willing to come over because I wanted to learn. Juan Martinez might have played a part in that, by the way. But, you know, you guys get the feeling that that was a joke. Just to get the feeling that the passion and the care and the will that you guys had is exactly what I talk about on a daily basis over at Vintage. And I think that has a lot to do with why we've become who we've become.
And I'm a little biased, but there's you got to not just Coach Leach, but there's another common denominator, and that's Coach Raines, right? So he brings this. He has a special way of organizing his people to absolutely love him to death, but and respect him because he gives them respect. But he also is pushing you harder than any time you've probably been pushed in your life. And the linemen that we, you know, he was in charge of the linemen, and they would, I mean, quite frankly, they would do anything that he needed them to do because of the respect that he had earned from his players. And it is that. It's about being a coach. We all have to earn your respect before anything. And he's special at that. He gets guys to do a lot of hard work and not take any credit for it. And they don't need credit for it because he gives them the credit. And that's what his group is most satisfied from, is getting the respect from their coach, who they respect greatly. And so he's another, you know, reason why Vintage, beyond Coach Leach, because I know as a head coach, it's bigger than the head coach. You got to have people around you that have the same principles, the same passion, the same knowledge that you have, because you can't do the job as a head coach by yourself. You need people like Coach Raines on your staff. And I was lucky enough to have a bunch of them. And I know that Coach Leach has a bunch of them now at Vintage.
Yeah, Coach, I want to reiterate something on Coach Raines. And everything you said is like 100% true. And I actually had a job interview the other day just to pick up a point too. I had asked ahead of time what you know, what are you guys looking for, you know, so I could interview again. And the common denominator was motivation, right? Everything was like, can you motivate these kids? So of course I go home and write a script on motivation, and I started thinking, and what I thought about with Coach Raines is this: you know, Coach Raines will make someone run through a wall for him, but what they're really doing is they're running through a wall for themselves. And it's like, they don't realize it at the time. At the time they're thinking, oh, I'm going to play my hardest for this man, and I'm going to do this and that for this man. But he has the innate ability to make them understand that really they're just succeeding within themselves, and they're finding themselves, and they're finding who they are. And that's what I appreciate mainly about coaches. You know, just the fact that kids will do that for them, but at the same time, they are growing. They're the ones that are reaping the benefits. You know, we reap the benefits, wins, right, and the praise, but they're reaping the benefits of confidence and a bunch of other things that maybe they lack.
So I really, coming from you two, I really appreciate the kind words. You two are my, you know, you guys are my football coaching heroes, right? I mean, you're the two guys that showed me the way. With that being said, the 2015 team, the offensive line and defensive line, to be honest, that we had coming back, we'd lost a lot. We had two D1 guys, 2 years before that, and I felt like we kind of, as a program, the linemen had kind of lost their way. So when I was initially brought on to coach with you guys, it was really important to me that I wanted to change the culture of what it meant to be a lineman at Napa High. That was very important to me. And I wanted to base that culture strictly on hard work and toughness, physical and mental toughness. And I know Alex can speak to this. I pushed you guys to the breaking point many a times.
Alec Richmond can too, because he was a pseudo offensive lineman.
Stepbrother.
Stepbrother.
I know I pushed you guys, and what I learned over your guys' junior and senior year is that I could push as hard as I needed to, and I have so much respect for all the kids that have played for me that make it through with me, because I know during the summer we're not quitting practice until we're bleeding, and we're beating you guys up. So I like guys like Alex who just grinded for 4 years, and I have just the utmost respect for you.
Hey, I want to give real quick. I want to give some kudos to Alec in the situation with being that pseudo offensive lineman, right, and being that tight end, that H back, that wing, our Joker and Black series, along with Colton. And Dennis can attest to this. Like, if you guys remember, we had a lot of jet schemes, right? We were able to run jet and bunch over stuff and get outside. I have yet to be able to accomplish that where I'm at now. Literally, I've yet to be able to accomplish that with some speed, right? With good runners.
Coach, if I can intercede real quick, and he's telling the truth. I sit in the stands sometimes and I watch their games, and I'm like, why don't you run jet sweep? And he'll tell me exactly what he's going to tell you, Alec. I don't have Alec Richmond up there blocking it. Plain and simple. You can't run it unless you have that perimeter blocking out there. And Alec and guys going out and safeties.
It's so true, and it's 100%. And here's what it comes back to again, is that Alec and Colton, right, are those type of guys. They saw themselves in that. Like, they saw the success that we would have, and they understood what it took, and they didn't have a prima donna approach to that. And again, man, it drives me insane, because that's my forte. That's my offense. That's what I want to do. If I could, I'd run jet counter every play, or jet G up every play. That's just what I love, along with some triple step. And so it tears me up that we can't, but that's kudos to you guys that brought that attitude. And I mean, obviously you had some skill, we get that, but I think more importantly, it was the willing to say, like, yeah, I'll do that for you, and I'll do that for us. And that's again goes back to what this team's about. Hey, real quick, my phone's about to die. I want to say I love all of you guys. I'm gonna jet home, and if I could get home, I'm gonna jump back on. So Foster, let me in when I do.
Sounds good. So,
all right. See you, Lee.
Thanks, Coach.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about was, now that we kind of got into the topic of running the offense, Mott, what was it like to call the offense with all these weapons that are sitting here with us today? I mean,
it was a lot of fun. Like Coach Leach said, I took some of the stuff that he was wanting to do out of the pistol, and that was a slow development in our program. It was a tough development, because we were kind of really a ground and pound between the tackle team, and but the ability to run those jet packages really opened up everything else for us. It forced teams to defend us on the perimeter much more so than they had before. So when you're talking about the chess game and the X's and O's that coaches go back and forth with week to week and during the game, I could see teams week by week starting to spread the defense out, because, Nathan Thomas stinging him out there and on the jet series, and us dominating that part of the game on the perimeter. And it really was a joy. It was really a lot of fun to open up the offense in that way. But you can't do that unless you have smart kids, right? And this is a common theme, is preparation. How well can a group of young men prepare? Because let me tell you something, as a coach, I know a lot of football. I could do a lot of things, right? Or I can do a little bit of things. And the kids are the ones that dictate that, my players. And so when you have a group that can, take the playbook and expand it, it's really, really fun as a coach. You stay up late at night thinking and dreaming of a lot of things to do, but it beats the other end of that, where you have a team that's not necessarily a good preparation team, and the playbook is that thin, and you're kind of running the same stuff over and over because that's all they know and that's all they're comfortable with. So this group was really, really fun for me to call plays. A lot of fun. In fact, it was probably my most fun offense to coach. And yes, including the 07 team. This offense was, for me personally, the most fun to coach because of the multiple things that we could do with the offense. And it was a lot of fun. And our highlight films and all of our films show that. You know, there's some explosive plays on there. And as much as we all want to think we're explosive players, we compare to what's out there. And those of us that have played college football understand what is really out there as far as speed and some of the athleticism. We had to do it the hard way, the old-fashioned way: preparation, hard work, and attention to detail.
Gotcha. So now I'm going to open it up to the players to talk a little bit about the offensive cohesion. I mean, Cal, you were the quarterback. Parker, you obviously, all you guys in here played a significant role. So if you want to talk a little bit about how the offense went when being on that group on the field at the same time.
It was just fun.
Who said that?
Oh,
Nathan?
That was really fun. I like that we didn't have like a lot of eye guys, so it didn't matter if you got 1 carry that night or if you got 10 carries. It was just as fun just to watch your buddies go, like, have a game. Like when Nathan, what was that one game he scored like 5 or 6 touchdowns?
Like bandits?
Yeah. And that was ridiculous. And that was so much fun. I could watch that every single week, you know, and that's what was the most fun for me, is just like being able to watch everyone go off and have a game. And like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, oh, coach, I'm not getting carries. It was just fun to watch everyone like go out and ball out. Yeah.
Parker hit it on the nose. It's not always your night. Some nights it was Parker and he was the one that was, superstar, and then sometimes it was Nathan, sometimes it was Cal, sometimes it was other guys. But the bottom line was exactly what Parker said. It's about winning. We all put in so much work. Let's win. And all the accolades will come later.
Anybody else? Cal, Alec?
Yeah, I agree with that. And just the cool thing was the versatility we had. I mean, like Parker said, there's no eye guy. I mean, each other on the team, we each wanted to get one another the ball. Everybody wanted to get a touchdown, yards. I mean, I remember that was one play I threw a screen pass to Parker in big game, and he trucked over 3 dudes, did a spin, and carried it for like 35 yards. And I'm sitting there and I'm cheering him on. I mean, I'm not mad about me not getting the yards. I mean, I want him to do just as good as I will, or the receiver on the left, receiver on the right. And I think it's little things like that carried our offense to where we were all 4 years.
Yeah, I mean,
I think something to think about too is early, during the summer, we had a guy, Mac Nielsen, who we thought was going to be pretty special his senior year, and went down with a knee injury. And we had some guys really step up. Nathan, stepped in and we didn't miss a beat. A lot of teams that weren't as tight knit as you guys were might have folded up shop the day that a guy like Mac went down. And that's a testament to you guys, the leadership you guys had, and the love for each other you had.
I'd like to mention too Isaac Moody on the offense.
Yeah.
He
unsung hero.
He was a character, but I believe that he gained everyone on the team's respect and coach's respect through the way he played. Every day during practice, whether it was on the scout team offense or starting offense, and that really transpired into his gameplay and the way he went about every down. You could tell that he was hardworking and that he wanted to be there. He wanted to get that extra yard, and he wasn't just doing it for himself. He was doing it for people around him.
He's just got killer mentality.
Yeah. Truth be told, Isaac, if he was on a different team, he would have been the star of that team. You know what I'm saying? But he had to take a back seat because of all the weapons. And exactly what Parker said, when you have a lot of weapons, it's great. But those weapons got to be unselfish and be willing to block for each other, run routes that are clear out routes just as hard as if you were getting the ball. And I'm glad that you brought him up, Cal, because you're exactly right. He made a lot of sacrifices. He had to, as a little guy, he had to stick his nose in there and do a lot of lead blocking and things like that.
Colton, anything? Alec?
Yeah, I mean, I think I lost you for a second.
Yeah, you're good now.
But
Colton went outside for a stogie break. That's what he looks like.
all right.
Edit.
All right. Well, Alec, I'll pass it to you.
I just the ability, like, we can do.
You're having technical difficulties.
All right, well, in that case, I'll talk. But, I mean, yeah, that offense is just, like, everyone's been hitting the nail on the head. It was just so much fun to watch other people score. And, like, I know for my position, what they had me do, just all these different blocking schemes, that was exciting for me because it gave me more opportunities to open up stuff for them, let them, get the yards. Sure, I didn't get the ball. That's fine. But it's just so, I mean, it was just, like, great, being able to see everyone, whatever, like, whoever was in that position for, getting the ball on the run or a pass is just so much fun just watching them being able to, make those big plays and just being able to have that excitement and celebrate with them like that.
So then, I mean, the majority of you guys on here also played defense. So that cohesion had to have transferred over to the defensive side of the ball because that defense was locked down. So can you guys also talk a little bit about that?
I'll talk about the secondary a little bit. I mean, it was just fun. I mean, me, Nathan, and Parker, I think we're the only starters in the secondary here right now, but we were so close off the field that when we were calling hand signals and relaying our signals and switching and rotating over, I mean, it was just like we were shaking hands or slapping it up off the field. I mean, we knew what to do because we were so close, and us being that close, it transpired into a great gameplay. And the system that the coaches put in for each week, that allowed us to be able to have that.
Yeah, for me as a coach, it was the best defense I ever coached. And I wasn't a defensive coach, but I was certainly a part of the game planning. And but at the same time, it was the best defense that I was ever a part of as a coach. You guys only allowed an average of 14 points a game the entire year, and you didn't play teams that were soft. Yeah, you played a really tough schedule, played really amazing football teams who had amazing football coaches that were working just as hard as we were as coaches to beat you. And so to hold high school football teams to 14 points a game for the entire season, and to do the dynamic things that you did on defense. And again, going back to what we spoke about earlier, Colton's willingness to come to meetings and sort of for us to be able to pick his brain as coaches and say, hey, can you guys handle this? Can your teammates handle this if we do it this way? What is easiest for you? And he always gave really good, precise, detailed input back to us that allowed us to know how far we could push it with you guys as far as the schemes went and on defense. It's tricky because you want to do some intricate things, but you also need to be free enough to react and play football so you can run and tackle. You don't want to, paralyze your players. So we were always, weary of that as coaches. Like, we don't want to paralyze them and make them slow on the football field reacting. We want them to react fast, play fast, and go hit people. And so you guys were an amazing defense from all three levels: D-line, linebackers to the DBs. That was really fun for me to watch. And as a play caller, it was really relaxing because I've been the offense coordinator, the head coach, play callers for teams when I knew they were going to give up a lot of points, and I knew in order to win, as great as that 07 team was, and they played enough defense, but as a play caller, and an offense, we felt pressure. We knew we had to score a lot of points to win football games that year. And luckily enough, we did. When I was working with you guys, it was relaxing because I didn't feel the heat as a play caller. Every series, I have to score, I have to score, I have to score. So it really, it was fun to watch you guys play defense. And, you know, football's about blocking and tackling, and you guys did both very, very well.
I mean, I must point out that the defensive line was almost interchangeable. You had so many people just changing throughout the week and throughout the game. So, I mean, Dennis, this is more of a question for you. You could just talk a little bit about that defensive line, because that was basically your baby that year.
Yeah, well, we talked earlier that we, you know, in the Wood game, we used like 10 or 11 different guys in a 3-man front, right? We did that all year long. If we were facing a spread team, my defensive line, what we would say were starters, which we didn't really even have starters on the D-line. That just changed week from week. If we were playing a spread team, I would try to match athlete for athlete and play, try to defend the spread teams. We'd go to wing T, face the wing T teams. I would have 3 new linemen on the field starting that game. So it was just a group effort. And I think the biggest thing to take from that 2015 team was the D-line that all those guys that played, they chased the football. They understood that we used to call them we're garbage collectors, right? We're garbage men. We're not here to make plays. We're here to eat space. But at the end of the day, we have to fly around and play football. And those guys, all those guys, gave great effort. It meant something to them.
I think, can you guys hear me now? Am I back on?
Yeah.
I think one of the best things about this defense was, you know, the versatility that we had. I think, to Coach Mott's point, where they don't want to overwhelm us on the field, I kind of felt like we had this trust in our coaches that, you know, they were going to get us in the right position and give us the right assignments. And because of that, we could be free. We could fly around and be football players, and we didn't have to worry about being in the wrong position. And we knew each other. And, you know, I think everyone trusted one another. Like Coach Rain said, as a linebacker, you know, I trusted my D-line to the nails, and they made me so much better and, you know, gave me the ability to make plays. And that's one thing that I love about the defense, and something I'll never forget.
Yeah, being interchangeable was such a thing with, you know, you look at Alec, for example, who played our strike. And in my opinion, in that defense, the Mike and strike are like the most difficult positions to play. Mike, because he has to make calls and stuff, and then quickly, you know, get to his reactions. And the strike, because, you know, sometimes you're down on a tight end and you're a D lineman, and then sometimes you're out in space and you're basically a strong safety. And Alec, you know, exemplified and Parker too. You know, we bring Parker down in a linebacker in some of the 3-5 looks against the 2-back sets, and he became a linebacker. And then the very next play, sometimes he would be back as a 2-deep safety. And so finding players like that, where you don't have to sub guys in quick, you know, or you don't get caught in a formation that the offense can outman you in. We never were, because our players were so interchangeable, and we're able to play in space, and they were able to play in the box. And that was huge for that defense, huge. And it was huge for us, because we really had a lot of fun saying, yeah, Parker can come down in the box, so we can get to run this front against this 2-back set and become an 8-man front all of a sudden, and really give our defense a shot against the run game. Or they're in spread. No, well, we can put Parker back as a deep safety, and we can get Alec out in space, and he can play like a strong safety, and we're solid there too. So, yeah, that doesn't come along very often. That's special. Trust me, I know. It's special to find interchangeable players, athletic players that can do multiple things, and not just do multiple things, but do them well.
So, I mean, on top of that, I feel like the defense, I know it was a good unit all the way through, but I feel like it was really anchored by the linebackers. You had Alec, you had Colton, and then you had Kale. I mean, that group wasn't going to let much pass him. And then you had Hunter Scriven as a backup. I mean,
Hunter was the 4th linebacker. Yeah, I'll meet you there.
I mean, can you talk about, like, in the players too? I mean, talk about the linebackers and how crucial that was to that team's success on defense.
All the D-line.
I spoke a little bit about Alex and obviously his versatility. So
don't worry about it.
The dog. And then Colton, you know, again, I spoke on behalf, but Colton was a dynamic tackler, which you need from your Mike position because he's in the mix of just about anything that involves the run game. You got to have a guy that's a sure dynamic tackler. And one thing Colton had, and I haven't seen a lot of guys who tackle this way. My best friend used to tackle this way when I played, and when they hit you, they have a little extra hip that goes into that, and guys get jolted and guys go backwards. And that was a gift that Colton had. It was an instinct that he had as a football player, beyond all the other great things that he did. And then, you know, you don't forget about Kale, who was just a sophomore that year, right?
Junior.
Or was that his junior year?
Junior
year, yeah. And, you know, so Kale brought a little different dynamic than Colton in that he brought more of a sideline to sideline chasing kind of perspective to things. He was a little bit faster and slighter build, but he was more athletic to get sideline to sideline, but was also tough enough to, you know, stand in there and take on, you know, downhill off tackle plays as well. And then Scriven too, you know, Scriven was as smart as they come. Very bright football player, and he had length. He was really tall and long. So passing game, the zone windows in his zone area too, a lot of times were small because he was so long and his levers were long and things like that. So and he played really, really hard. Hunter was.
Well, Brendan Weeks was also there too.
And Brennan too, yeah, at the wheel. And Brennan started out as Colton's partner in crime, and then, you know, unfortunately, you know, the situation was, you know, the younger guy won out. But Brennan was a guy who you kind of felt for as a coach a lot because he worked so hard. It wasn't because he didn't work hard, but, you know, the bottom line is when you play the linebacker, you got to bring the ball, the guy at the ball down to the ground. And Kel was just doing that better at a better clip than Brennan.
So while we're on the topic of defense, we kind of already hit on the Campolino and Pittman games, but those games were won at the end by the defense. I believe Pittman had like a 4th and goal and they're like on the 7-yard line or something, and Cal had the pick, obviously. And then the next week, Campo, like they had 8 straight plays from inside the 10. I mean, the defense was incredible those 2 games. Can you guys talk a little bit about that?
I just got to give a lot of the credit on defense to Colton because Colton was the leader of that defense. He was the captain of the defense. He was like, that's one guy you can trust. Like he would go there. We didn't really, the play calls weren't really to us, you know, because we just like worried about coverages more so. But man, I props to Colton for how smart he was playing defense. That was crazy to be behind someone like that.
Agree with that, as he put my checks in check sometime just overhearing me. Many of
Thank
times,
God.
I have to say.
Yeah, he's like, what are you guys doing? Like, stop. We don't know. We don't know.
You know,
Kyle, I can talk particularly about the Pittman game. The reason we got that interception was because, and I don't remember who, but we stopped their wraparound draw. Do you guys remember that play? The wing T wraparound draw. The quarterback would go behind the running back and then shove it like in his armpit from behind.
Wasn't it Fergoza? Didn't Fergoza stop that play?
It might have been. I can't remember who stopped it, but I remember us yelling, knowing it was coming and yelling like, wrap around draw. You guys were probably looking at us coach like we were crazy because I was like dancing on the sideline like, wrap around draw. And sure enough, it got called and we stopped it. And it forced their 4th and 7, and then it forced them to do, you know, something they didn't like to do, and that was throw the ball. And when the game was on the line, and Cal made a nice play to intercept it. And then the Campolino game was amazing. That 8 play goal line stand, and a lot of things stick out. But the one thing that sticks out with me is we ran nasal to Isaiah West, and the quarterback was going to hit the tight end over the middle, and Isaiah West dropped. It was a great play call by Coach Leach and Coach Gassner. They dropped Isaiah and nasal, and he dropped back into the middle third, and he totally forced the quarterback who was eyeballing the tight end and he was like, oh, he couldn't do it. And he had to pull it down. And I think we either took a sack or he had to throw the ball away. But that was a frustrating for coach. I was losing my mind because there was penalties, and some were good calls, some were bad calls, and things just, I thought, man, but fortitude, right? It was just the amount of your guys' fortitude and your resilience that you were able to stop the state championship, defending state champions 8 times on a goal line stand.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate what Cal and Parker said about me. That's really cool to hear from, being a teammate. But that 8-play goal line stand, well, first of all, the Pittman wraparound draw, I know I absolutely blew that one. So if it was for Goza, I owe him something because he saved me. But, I think with the Camp Olinda one, we all came together really well. And I think they even tried to attack Sherman on the outside with that really tall receiver. And just the fight that we had was really cool and really special to be a part of.
I mean, the game ended on that defensive stand. It was like, I remember going home that night, and all of a sudden it's like our program was on the map for that year. Like, we were and I know at that time rankings don't mean anything, right? But Prep to Prep had us ranked. Like, it was incredible. Like, just to see what came from that win. And I mean, defensively, the defense won the game. I mean, offense did their job too, but the defense, I feel like, really won the game there. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they came up when you needed it, just like in Vacaville when the offense scored when we needed it, and then Camp Olinda, the defense, came through, Pittman came through when we needed it, and that's what good teams do.
All right. Well, anybody else have any final thoughts from anybody here on this group before I end this thing?
Yeah, I'd just like to touch on, I know that select people in this group are just here being able to speak, but the season and seasons, they were always a team effort, and I just hope that you can recollect and mention names that weren't mentioned today, because they deserve the credit too. It's not just us, and I know we're here speaking, but they had a lot to do with our success, and I'm sure all of us are very fortunate that we were able to play with them and have them as our friends off the field.
So that speaks to the program mentality, right? Like, us instead of me, like, that's the program through and through when we were all there together.
Yeah, it started from everyone has to wear the same damn color socks, the same shorts, the same shirt. You better have black cleats, and if you don't, you better have a Sharpie.
Yeah.
You guys get it now?
Yeah.
No tights, no armbands, no visors.
Yeah, well, I figured at some point in your lives you'd get it. I know you didn't get it then, but kind of like the face paint, right, Colton, before a vintage game?
All right. We can go on to that because we put on face paint for big game for years. That was my senior year was the only big game I didn't wear face paint because of you. I don't know where that one came from. But
remember how mad
must have been on edge.
Remember how mad Isaac
you
Moody
were really
got?
upset.
The locker room was quiet.
Remember how mad Isaac Moody got in the bathroom?
Yeah, because he had his whole face done up, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?"
He came out with black tar, looking like it was all over his face.
Oh, that was good.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we can still talk after I stop the recording here.